Hi, and welcome to day one of the 5-day out of the box challenge. And where are you? Nobody has posted. I understand. It's scary to speak. It's scary to speak in this new digital world. That's why I have the challenge. I'm Dr. Michelle Pedicola, founder of Secrets of Life and Death and Second Chance Secrets. I know all about scary. Yes, I know that death actually comes after speaking live, but learning to find your voice and find it in this new way, hi, thank you for joining, is essential to making your business work. If you are a speaker or an influencer or a change maker or a coach, you need to master this new format of communicating. And it's hard. I help people to reinvent their lives after a significant loss, like death or divorce, or just change. And we're going through an amazing change, and it's hard to step up. It's affected, this whole pandemic has affected our ability to get our businesses running, and you can feel the pressure. It's like this whole ecological change that's requiring us to step up in a new way in order to reach our people. Now, there are some ways in which we still reach out to our family and our friends in the same way, although even then, maybe you are communicating on Zoom. Zoom is a little easier than Facebook Live, or yes, Facebook Live, or when you're recording on your cell phone, your smartphone, you actually need to train your eyes to look in a different place. And I can tell you, I've been working on communicating digitally for a number of years now. And the first few times I did it, my head, everything was looking down at the floor. It was ridiculous. And where my head was all in the wrong place. So that's the first thing that you need to retrain yourself to do. But the most important thing, the real important thing, is for you to be able to speak intimately, to imagine the person on the other end, and to open yourself to that intimacy, even though you can't see them. And I used to speak live all the time, and I was really good because I really looked at the people in the audience. I addressed my statements and my questions to individual people. And I got high from feeling their responses. I got energy from how they reacted to me. And here we are in this digital world. Silence. Nothing. Unless you can tune your ability. Hi, thank you for joining. Unless you can tune your ability to sense, to experience what's that person on the other line interested in. By the way, if you want to ask me questions, those of you who are online are live right now, please go ahead and post it. But please don't make them any longer than like a sentence or two, because I'm cell phone challenged, and when I push to try and get more, nothing happens. So please go ahead, at least say like or send a thumbs up if you like what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, how do you show up in a new way? And I'm explaining to you that I've been doing this for a number of years. And I kind of hit a roadblock because I've studied with Toastmasters for about 2 years, and I learned a specific style of speaking. And the style of speaking was to reach out to the audience, but not to say any ahs or ums. And so sometimes when I talk online, I show that hesitation, that pause, which Toastmasters love, but sounds kind of artificial on the digital media. So there is a new thing that you have to learn. How do you speak conversationally? Especially when the people who were on there a moment ago disappear, and then you say, oh, what did I do wrong? When in fact, they might not have even been on in the first place. Or something called them away. Or people have very little attention span. but it impacts the body when your audience disappears. So you also have to be aware of that. In addition, I was saying that I've been working on this for a number of years, that practice doesn't always result in a change. As Albert Einstein said, you have to get out of the box. You have to get out of the situation in which the problem was caused. You cannot solve it, not to paraphrase him, but you cannot solve a problem in the location or the condition in which it was created. So you have to step out of the box. And that's what the purpose of this Facebook challenge is to invite you to step out of the box. What does that mean? Well, partly it means doing a bunch of what do you do videos and posting them here, which is like super scary, I understand. But also it means every day asking yourself, what can I do out of the box? It can be as simple as putting your shirt on first before you put your pants on. It can be as simple as putting your socks on before you put your pants on. It could be as simple as when you brush your hair, brushing from the other side first, or your teeth. You think, well, that's dumb, but actually it's not. Because when you do something new, you put your body on alert. You make yourself more aware. And it's this awareness, this heightened awareness that we want to bring into our body. That's what brings us alive. Now, don't go overboard. I have tried to go overboard. That's the kind of person I am. I did go overboard and everything had to be done differently. You don't want to blow your circuits. You want to do this a little bit at a time. So another thing I've been doing is drawing. Now, you've already seen my drawing, so you say, oh, she can draw. But this drawing assignment, you have to do the drawings in like 3 minutes. And I take way more than 3 minutes, and I erase, and I do over and over and over again. But you're not supposed to do that. And you're supposed to do it in ink. The first few days I did it in pencil. And also, I'm drawing people. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I usually draw dinosaurs and rabbits and snakes and crocodiles. I don't draw people. But here I am drawing people. And I'm trying to draw them, just letting them happen. But I get rushy, and I just want to, and then I look at it and I'm judgmental. So these are all the things that you learn about yourself when you step out of the box. What happens? What shows up? That's what you want to know. That's what you want to experience. That's what you want to explore. And as you explore that, amazing magic happens. I mean, it electrifies you. It turns on all the circuits in your body. We are creatures of habit, and so we're really used to doing the same thing over and over again. And when you do the same thing over and over again, your mind is somewhere else. You're not present. Now, I noticed that when I was speaking on a Facebook Live, I tended to write my notes ahead of time and then memorize them. And then I would be trying to speak my notes based on my memory. And then I would get flustered because I couldn't remember what it was that I was going to say. But this isn't conversational. So the advantage of this Facebook Live right now is that I'm just talking. And maybe I'll be quiet for a little while and think, what's the next thing I'm going to say? And this is really when you want to get on my Facebook Lives, is when I'm just talking extemporaneously, because you never know what I'm going to say. And I know a lot of stuff. I have a PhD in sociology and psychology, psychosomatics. I actually understand how the body works. So I might share some of that. But mainly, I just want to invite you to step out of the box. And I understand, it's scary. The other week, I went out for the first time and spoke outside. I always speak like in my office, like here, right? Nice, safe, quiet. My husband's outside, nobody interrupting me. But last week, I went out early in the morning and I went and sat on a log and I did a Facebook Live without makeup, without special clothing, just here I am right here, right now. It changes. You know, when we put on certain kinds of clothing, it almost instills a tone and an awareness of how we are supposed to present. So, of course, if you're going to go to court, you want to dress up really spiffy. You want to show up like as an authority, as you got your act together. But at Facebook Live, you want to show up as the person over there's best friend. Yeah, you want to show up as somebody that people can trust. And how do you do that? Part of it is being completely present. Now, I know quite a bit about being present because I've studied with a Sufi master for over 35 years. A long, 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 long time. And that practice was all about being in the moment. How do you do that? How do you be in the moment? When I say that, instantly, I get into an altered state. I am so conditioned that that's what shows up. Be in the moment. Be here. Be now. Be here now. Ram Dass. So what are you saying right now? You're saying, well, tell me more about you. Why should I be listening to you? Well, as I said, I have a PhD in sociology, psychology. I've trained in psychosomatics, and I have a spiritual practice. I know how to bring together the whole. You know how they use the term holistic? Well, I bring together the whole. I bring the body, I bring the mind, I bring the community, and I bring spirit. Hi, Joan. Oh, thank you, Joan. Thank you so much. So I bring it all together so that it's in unity. Now, one of the problems most of us have with showing up as ourselves is our past, is when we were children and we learned to stop being ourselves because we were afraid we were not going to get loved. Maybe we were even going to get hurt, or we were going to get yelled at. And so we learned to conform to the expectations of our parents. I became a consummate people pleaser. And part of the problem with these patterns that we learn is that we're successful. We get really good at it, and we get the results, we get the rewards, and we get addicted to the rewards because when we're rewarded, we get little hits of dopamine. So our bodies actually get addicted to that. And so the idea of getting on your cell phone and speaking live to a camera, and by the way, I'm not even asking you to do that. You can go ahead and record your what do you do by yourself and then post it. I'm not asking you, at least not today, to show up live. But that's ultimately where we want to go. And the exercises change from day to day, and they are fun. They help you to break out of the box, stop thinking so much, and try something different. So wait till you see, there's some really, really good archetypes that I ask you to step into in order to speak. So I was telling you I was a people pleaser. And I was a people pleaser for almost 50 years. I didn't even know I was a people pleaser. I didn't even know that I had a life purpose. I didn't even know that there was any other way to be. And why should I? It worked well. Well, actually, it didn't work well. And what I found out about people pleasers is when they don't get what they bargained for, and that's what you do, is you send all your energy out there and you expect to be loved in return. And when you don't get it, you get pretty mad. That is not a good approach to the world. A good approach to the world is to be yourself. But most of us don't even know who we are. It's so subconscious, it's so repressed. I was doing a study or preparing, researching for a speech I'm giving tonight on this speechcraft that I'm involved in. It's online with Toastmasters, and it's amazing. So I'm talking about getting out of the box. I'm talking about what I'm talking about today. And one of the things that I say in the speech is that the way in which we were brought up teaches us these patterns of not being ourselves. And of course, that's what happened to me. You know what woke me up? My mother, just before she died. I'd already lost my father 6 months before, and now my mother was going from breast cancer. And I came out to help her out. And we're sitting in her studio. My mother was a toy designer. Actually, kind of a pretty successful one. I mean, she didn't make $1 million, but she actually got her toys made by major toy companies in New York City. Gund, Hasbro, E.G. Dolls, Sears. And she almost really succeeded, but then some kind of disaster happened. Anyway, here she is. We're sitting in her studio going through her papers. Me, officious. Virgo moon, organized. And I'm going through and I hand her a piece of paper. It's one of her designs. And this is not like an original. This is a Xerox copy. And I say, can we throw this out? And she looks at it. And she goes, oh, I guess I'll never get to that project. Well, that moment when she said that blew me away. But I was afraid. And I wasn't used to being myself. I had just gone through some major healing, but I was not. I mean, I felt it because I hadn't been feeling my feelings for a long time. And now I felt it, but it scared the hell out of me. So I said, oh, we don't have to do this right now. And I stopped her instead of listening to her, instead of asking her, what does it feel like that you have no future? I mean, that's what we're talking about. When you're dying, you have no future. Well, actually you do, but it's a future we have no idea what it is. Certainly you have no future in this three-dimensional plane. You're gone. You're not going to be here anymore. You cannot make dates. You cannot set dinner plans. You cannot plan to go to the movies. It's like day to day, borrowed time. So I didn't reach out to her. But I got the message. Live your brilliance. Live your passion or die with regret. I mean, I figured if my mother, who, let me tell you, she was the poster child for living your passion, if she could have regrets, where did that leave me? And that, of course, ended up in my working on my documentary film series. Talk about out of the box. I was terrified. Because I never made a documentary. And it was like a song and a prayer. I just said, I got to do this. And that's what gets you out of the box, is that commitment. And we're going to be talking about commitment tomorrow. How do you commit to doing something? Just showing up. And I will talk about what commitment involves and how you get yourself to commit. I'm just asking you to set, hi, thank you for joining. I'm just asking you to set your intention today. If you were to step out of your box, if you were to do this challenge, what would you want to get out of it? How would you like to change? What do you want in terms of your way of speaking your truth? Do you want to be more vulnerable? Do you want to be more honest? Do you want to be more intimate? Do you want to reach your people? Do you want a flood of people to come and show up on your Facebook Live? Do you want to just listen to yourself and say, oh, I like that person? And then that's the way in which you speak online. But what about in your home? What I haven't told you is that if you change the way in which you speak online, if you become more of yourself online, you become more of yourself in everyday life. You become more honest. as you start getting out of the box, as you start doing different things, it changes everything. Suddenly you look at yourself and you say, wait a minute, I'm not being honest here. And you change your voice. You change what you have to say. So it affects your relationships with your bosses or boss, your spouse, your children, but in a good way. Because all of us long for that intimacy. All of us long for that honesty. Of course, if your honesty is being pissed off, you may need to deal with that first, which is one of the things that I do with my clients, is work on the emotions first. It's one of the body and emotions are the first thing that we address in my life makeover program. You have to get that mastered. And by mastered, I don't mean suppressing it, but actually developing a practice of emotional hygiene so that it never gets stuck in your body. There's a whole book about how when you don't allow your emotions out, you actually get yourself sick. Because the chemicals, well, okay, I'm getting too much into detail, I know, but the chemicals that are released in your body can actually be toxic if they are left there over a long time. And many of us have been doing the same thing, repressing ourselves for a long time. Oh, right, so that reminds me of the Toastmasters speech that I'm going to give tonight. And I was doing some research. Do you know that 1 out of 6 adult Americans is on some kind of psychiatric drug? 1 out of 6? 1 out of 6. So why is that important? Because I believe that when we stop being ourselves at the age of 2 or 3 or 5, it actually takes a lot of energy to hold back who we are, because that spirit in us is trying to get out. And the voice of that inner being is pressing against us, is pushing to be released. And so we take psychiatric drugs in order to quiet that voice, to tamp it down. And by the way, that 1 out of 6, that doesn't account for all of us who are self-medicating through drinking and illegal drugs and workaholism and texting and computer games and overeating. Overeating. You know, that is the go-to self-soothing action that people go to feel better. Mammals, not just people, mammals, they go to eating when they want to soothe themselves because it feels good and it can actually change your energy. But when it gets out of control. So what was I saying? 42% of Americans are obese. And obese doesn't mean pleasantly plump. It doesn't mean slightly overweight. It means like 30% more body mass than you're supposed to have. 42%. That's why our country is so unhealthy. Can you imagine we are one of the best countries in the world in terms of per capita income and access to the creature comforts of the world, and we're all like 42% are overweight and miserable. So why are we miserable? Because we are not being authentic. We're not being ourselves. Abraham Maslow has this whole hierarchy of 5 levels for living, for human beings, what their needs are, their basic needs for good living. And the first ones are about survival, things like eating and warmth and drinking water or whatever. And then the next level is to feel safe so that, you know, you don't have to worry about somebody attacking you in the middle of the night. And it goes on, feeling loved and feeling supported by your community. And then it ends up in living a life that is fulfilling. That's where I believe that we have a problem. How many of you are living a life that is fulfilling? Do you feel fulfilled in what you're doing? And if you do, fantastic. But maybe you still need to have some tweaks when it comes to speaking to your potential clients, your prospects. Are you being real? I mean, maybe the work you're doing is satisfying. My father was an engineer and he loved his work, but he was terrified of teaching. He would go in, he would, get all psyched up. He would probably memorize the way I did, and he would deliver his information, and then he would run away. He would get out of town. He did not want to hear the feedback because of that wanting to be loved. And we all, in one way or the other, it's not your fault. Human beings need to be loved. It's one of the basic 5 that Maslow talks about, is that we need to be loved and approved of and appreciated. And that's why I'm offering this Facebook challenge, because I want to give you a container for taking a risk. That's what I'm giving you, a container for taking risks, for stepping up, for being your authentic self, to try it out, to see how it feels. So who are you? That's the first exercise in the first day of the 5-day out of the box challenge. Who are you? Express who you are, what you do. And then what do you want to get out of this? What do you hope? And it doesn't have to be that you are going to be able to now speak online on Facebook Live and sound like an expert and everybody's best friend. It may mean that you find your voice, that you're able to express what you need to express. And when you put it out there, something shifts. There's something about being observed, something about being held by other people. Because humans are social animals. We appreciate other human beings. And I'm understanding, you're not quite sure whether you can trust this container or not. I will protect you. Anybody says anything nasty, out of the ring. Well, I'll warn them first. But here, this is a safe container for you to express who you are. If you want to, start out by writing it. Just say who you are. What do you do? What do you want? What are your dreams? What would you like if you stepped out of the box? What do you hope that you can achieve? Okay, let me see if I can think of anything else to say. I'm just going to hang out here for a minute. I even have no idea how long I've been talking. I'm going into the present again. I know you're out there. You want to feel safe. You want to know what you're really meant to be doing. You don't know whether you can trust me. I told you a little bit about me. PhD, psychosomatics. So I come with a whole bunch of tools. But I think what people really like, my clients really talk about, is how I see you, I feel you, and I'm there for you. And my heart is open. That's one of the things I got out of the Sufi work, all those years at Sufi work, was how to open my heart. Because I'm telling you, the first part of my life, my heart was shut. I didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust that it was going to be safe for me. I didn't trust that people would approve of me. I didn't feel like I belonged. Maybe you can relate. How do you feel? Do you feel valued? Do you feel loved? Do you feel appreciated by your community? Are you struggling? Are you pushing too hard? That's one of the things that we need to take a look at as we do this Facebook challenge. When you get into it, maybe you start to try and do that as perfectly as everything else that you try and do. People pleasers in particular are perfectionists. They want to get it right so that they can get the love that they want. But controllers, that's another dynamic. They want to get it right too because they want to feel safe. So that kind of sets you up for pushing because you gotta do it. You're gonna do it. I'm suggesting that maybe you just sit like I am right now with your camera. It doesn't have to be live. Push the video button and say, who are you? Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Pedicola, founder of Secrets of Life and Death. I help smart men and women to reinvent their lives after a loss, a divorce, or a life transition. And you know, I've found in the 20 plus years that I've been working with people through life transitions, that many of them have such an amazing experience as a result of their transformation. They actually want to help other people. I think it's kind of normal. You know, we suffer so much, we struggle, we get through it, and then we have this great insight and we want to share. And that was what has happened to me. That's why I went out and created that documentary film series, because I had this major epiphany and I wanted to share it with other people. I was compelled to, and it was scary. You think showing up on Facebook Live is scary. You tried making a documentary film series with no money and see how scary that is. But I did it. And you can do it. You can do it. You can show up. You can change if you set your mind to it. Let that land. You have to take the step. You have to say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to risk being a fool. I'm going to risk people isolating me or abandoning me. I'm going to risk it because it's worth it. Because if I just reach one person, if one person listens to this and says, she's speaking to me. Yes, I'm speaking to you. You out there who want to make a difference in this world. But for some reason, you've held back who you are. You think that you have to be bigger than life, or you think you have to be happy-go-lucky all the time, or you think you have to be super intellectual. That's where I went. You think that you can't say any ahs or ums. You think that you are not okay, that who you really are deep down inside is not okay. And so you have to put on this persona, this outward shell, this shield, this mask for people, for you to feel safe. And I'm inviting you to take off that mask and feel how that feels. Only it's hard to get that mask off, right? Because it's been on so long that it feels like your skin. How do you know when you've taken off the mask? Well, you feel it in your heart. You feel like, yeah, this is me. So how do you know that I'm right for you? Because I see you. I understand what your struggles are. So there may be two possible struggles. One is that you're scared. You're afraid to do something out of the box. Because in your past, you did something out of the box and you got in trouble. You're afraid to trust your audience. You're afraid to change what has been working kind of so far. And you're afraid of trusting somebody that you don't know very well. Well, it's time to get to know me. Please go ahead and post your questions. Who am I? What else can I tell you? I'm an artist, cartoonist. I draw cartoons. And the cartoons have an uncanny way of expressing the emotions that we all experience, but in a way that is unthreatening. Because that's what we need. We need to not feel threatened. Because when we come out, we need to feel safe. Which reminds me, I have a friend who hatches monarch butterflies. He puts them in a cage to protect them from their predators because the monarch butterfly population has taken a big hit in this modern world. So he puts them in a butterfly and he releases them. And he says, some days I have 20 butterflies to release and each one takes about an hour. to let go. 20. It's like it takes his whole day to let all those butterflies out. But he provides that safety. He holds them with gentleness and care so that they can take flight. That's my vision for what I offer you. I offer you my finger. I offer you the safe haven for you to explore who you really are, so that you can make the shift, so that you can really show up. Because the world is really tired of bullshit. The world is really, really tired of hype and overpromising and same old, same old. If you are offering what everybody else is offering, which is what, it feels safe. That's what we learned in high school, was if we were like everybody else, then we were safe. Nobody would see us. You didn't stand out. Well, in the coaching industry, that's the sure way to die, or at least have your business die. Because the only people who will really survive are the ones who can stand out. And the only way that you can truly stand out is by being yourself. When you are totally and uniquely and only you, that's when you stand out. For the people who you are meant to serve. That's the promise, that they are there waiting for you, for exactly you. And who is drawn to you is not who's drawn to me. People who are drawn to me, they know. They know right away. This is the person I want to work with. She's smart. She's compassionate. She sees me. She understands what I've been going through. Convinced? Are you ready to start? Okay, I've been talking for over a half hour, so that's good for me. That's pretty good. Tomorrow, we have another training. Please jump on and start doing the trainings. You're not going to get the result if you don't do the work. It's about taking action. And when you take action out of the box, magic happens. Believe me. Oh, it reminds me of the story. A long time ago, you want to listen to some more? A long time ago, you can get off anytime you want. I was at my first Sufi camp. I was there for 2 months. A lot of chanting, a lot of slow movement, breath, whirling, walking, meditation. And then we had a break between the regular workshop and what they called the extension. And I had been invited to stay, so I was actually excited. Oh, I've been approved, yay! So the good people pleaser that I was, I invited a bunch of other students who were staying on to join me on an outing to go to a Native American village called Acoma. Ancient, like several hundred years old, on the top of a mesa that was surrounded by plain. It was high up. It was called Acoma, Sky City. So a bunch of German students and me all jump into my old VW van. We're talking 1968 van, yeah. And drive off to Albuquerque. Yes, this is in New Mexico. We drive off to Albuquerque. And we're going to Albuquerque because we're going to pick up another student who went home the night before. We stop and wait, and she gets in the van, and I try to start the van, and it won't start. Now, my usual response to when things don't work out right is to go right into my angry child and start screaming, cursing, and gnashing my teeth. That was my go-to response. Almost like if I was really, really obnoxious, the universe would relent and say, okay, please stop with the trauma. But I had just finished 2 months of meditation, whirling, singing, dancing. And that didn't feel right anymore. It felt alien. And so I took a breath. And then I got out of the car. And I pulled out my idiot manual. And I diagnosed the problem. And just as I figured out what was wrong, a man shows up in my shoulder. And he says, "May I help you?" And I laughed and I said, well, only if you're a VW mechanic. And he laughed and he said, well, actually I am. I was speechless. Well, not quite. I said, wow, really? Fabulous. Well, here's the problem I've diagnosed. See if you think that that's right. And I went through the book with him. And he said, yeah, that sounds right. I said, well, do you happen to have the part? Because I hadn't gotten that far. Like, where am I going to get this part? He says, I don't know. Let me check in my studio. And he goes off. And I'm sitting there, again, in the moment, staying in the moment, staying settled, opening to whatever the universe wants to offer me. And he comes out. He has the part. Not only that, he puts it in. He says, well, do you want to put it in or shall I? I said, oh, no, please put it in. And he put it in. And the car started and we headed off. And when we reached the highway, it finally dawned on me. It was Labor Day. None of the other car repair places were open that day. It gave me shivers because I realized, or I sensed, that the universe was waiting for me to take a new step, to get out of the box. And I did. And so I'm inviting you to get out of the box. Do something different. Find out what happens when you show up for yourself, when you really, really listen to yourself, and you let that flow. Any other questions? Let me see. Do you have any other questions for me? So how long have I been working at this? Well, I mean, I've been a coach for about 20 years, but I started when I was in graduate school and I was working on a thesis on Gestalt therapy groups. And then I worked for 5 years on the Navajo reservation. And then I worked as a substitute teacher at a high school in New York City. So I've had a lot of experience with a lot of different people. I love people. I like working with people. I like connecting heart to heart. I like seeing and being of service, of helping somebody to see things in a different way. I hope I've given you some different perspective on what is required in this out of the box. I hope I've allayed some of your fears. What will happen when you step out of the box? Well, if you do the small things, the incremental things, mainly you'll feel excited. You'll feel turned on. You'll be electrified and energized. But when you really step out of the box, when you start doing the things that you really fear, sometimes resistance shows up. And we're going to talk about resistance on day 3 and what to do about it and what to learn from it. Any other questions? How did I get out of the box after my mother passed away? Well, you got to understand that when something like that happens, when you lose a mother or you lose somebody close, it's already caused you to shift out of the box. You go through an experience that you've never been through before. I mean, you really only have one opportunity to lose your mother. And that just electrifies you. It pushes you. And for me, I made a decision. As a result of that, I made a decision to make a documentary, which became a series. And I became committed. It was amazing. I chose a subject which was going to really interest me for a long time. In fact, after I finished the documentaries, it continued to interest me for years afterwards. And that's this whole issue of life and death. This whole issue of what it means to be alive and what it's like to realize that we die and what it's like to accompany somebody who's dying. It is probably one of the most amazing, mind-bending times in your existence. Right after birth is death. because it's that shift from this reality to the next. And it woke me up. And I went and took on stuff that scared the hell out of me. And I made a lot of mistakes. And I kept on going until I finished my films. And here I am. I'm now a coach. Do I ever wonder if this is the right thing for me to do? You know, I figure as long as I keep on growing, I'm on the right path. I don't know that you need to get too caught up in, is this the right path or is that the right path? You have to go with your gut. You have to go with what feels good, what excites you. And I have to say, this excites me. Learning how to do this, learning how to speak to you, learning how to keep on talking even though nobody's out there right at this moment. That's interesting. And of course, helping people, my people, to get that change for themselves so that they can speak authentically and real and live their fulfilling life. Be brilliant. Do the work. Join me tomorrow. Don't be shy. Break through that one, just to do that, just to post something. Break through that barrier. That's it for now. Bye.